So do you believe your son received a fair trial? No.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. And we're going to keep fighting.
Mhm.
We will not stop fighting for justice for my son.
Mhm. And as parents, have you all struggled with guilt, asking yourselves, is there anything differently? I know, Kayla, you said you wish you had gone to that track meet. Is there anything that you both wish you could have done differently?
I wish I would have just been rebellious. I was told, don't talk to this person, don't talk to this person. I feel like it was just a setup. Now, so they told us, go get white attorneys. Every black person I went to, a white attorney. No white attorney, they set them up, pushed them. Hey, here you go. I mean, no objections. It was things were smooth. So because as a father of me being who I am, I got to make sure she's straight. This mama bear, I got to make sure she's straight mentally because if she's not straight, my house ain't straight. I'm not straight. Then so because I got the kids to worry about. Got to make sure his mental health. I can't go back and forth with him right in there because his mental can handle it. The misunderstanding of what dad is trying to take. This ain't a daddy moment.
And just like that, after 7 days of testimony, more than 20 witnesses, and 14 months of one of the most talked about cases this country has seen in years, 12 jurors walked back into that courtroom and took their seats. The verdict? Guilty. First-degree murder. Unanimous. Karmelo Anthony, now 19 years old, broke down at the defense table the moment that word was read. Outside, crowds who had been standing in 90-degree Texas heat waiting for that decision erupted on both sides. And just 1 day later, his legal team filed a notice of appeal. So no, this case is not over. Not even close. If you're just now catching up, two teenagers who had never once crossed paths before that morning showed up to the same track meet in Frisco, Texas. One never made it home. And what happened in those 15 minutes beneath that tent has divided an entire nation ever since. We are breaking down everything: the verdict, the sentence, the appeal, and what comes next. Frisco, Texas is one of the fastest growing cities in the United States. Its population expanded by more than 450% since the year 2000, growing from roughly 44,000 residents to nearly 250,000 by 2025. The Dallas Cowboys practice there. Men's Journal once named it the best place in America to raise an athlete. Frisco ISD consistently ranks among the top school districts in Texas for national merit scholars and produces graduates who compete at the highest academic and athletic levels in the country. This is a city where education and athletics are not background features. They are the identity of the place. It is the kind of city where two young men with strong grades, serious athletic ability, and real futures can grow up 5 miles apart, compete in the same district, and never once cross paths. That is exactly what happened with Austin Metcalf and Karmelo Anthony. Two teenagers. Two different schools. No prior connection of any kind. Austin Matthew Metcalf was born on July 31st, 2007. He was a 17-year-old junior at Frisco Memorial High School carrying a 4.0 GPA. On the football field, he was a middle linebacker who wore jersey number 11, stood 6 feet tall, weighed 200 pounds, and had earned 2 Player of the Game awards. His teammates voted him Team MVP. The college football programs had begun to take notice. Outside of school and sports, Austin worked part-time at a pizzeria in Frisco. He had an identical twin brother named Hunter, who was born just 2 minutes after him. They played football together at Memorial, competed on the same track and field team, and trained together throughout every season. Their parents, Jeff Metcalf and Megan Metcalf, drove out to David Kuykendall Stadium that morning to watch both of their sons compete. Hunter later told WFAA plainly, "I never met this kid in my life." Karmelo Sincere Anthony was born on May 11th, 2007. Originally from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, his family relocated to North Texas in 2021. He enrolled at Frisco Centennial High School, a campus where students averaged a 27.6 on the ACT and produced 23 National Merit finalists in 2024. He carried a 3.7 GPA and served as captain of both the football team and the track and field team at Centennial. Outside of school, he worked 2 part-time jobs, one at Foot Locker where he had been employed for 2 years, and one at HEB. He was the oldest of 4 children. His parents were Drew Anthony and Kala Hayes Anthony. He had no prior criminal record of any kind. The UIL District 11-5A Championship track meet at David Kuykendall Stadium brought multiple Frisco ISD schools together that morning. Coaches were running final preparations. Parents were settling into the stands. And then the storms moved in. At a track and field meet, every school brings its own tent. It does not need to be written in any rulebook. Every athlete, every coach, and every parent who has spent time around the sport understands it without being told. That tent is your school's designated space, your athletes, your gear, your coaches, your ground. Robert Starr, the Memorial High School track coach who later testified at trial, put it plainly to the jury. He compared a team tent to a team bench in any other sport. You just don't go into someone else's tent uninvited, he said. That was the understood rule inside David Kuykendall Stadium on the morning of Wednesday, April 2nd, 2025. Centennial High School did not have a tent at this meet. With thunderstorms moving in and the competition on hold, Centennial had no designated shelter for its athletes. At some point during the delay, Karmelo Anthony made his way into the Memorial High School tent, entering from the top right side. The moment he appeared, people noticed immediately. He was from Centennial. Everyone inside that tent was from Memorial. Multiple students told him to leave. According to witness testimony presented at trial, Anthony was asked to leave as many as 15 times over a confrontation that lasted between 4 and 6 minutes. He did not move. Hunter Metcalf was among those who told him directly to go. During this time, witnesses testified that Anthony kept both hands inside his backpack and repeatedly stated he had something in it. Eddie Parra, a Memorial student who knew Anthony casually from outside of school, had greeted Anthony when he entered the tent. He did not ask him to leave. Austin Metcalf stepped in. Witnesses testified that he physically tried to force Anthony out of the tent. Words went back and forth. The tension kept rising. And then Anthony opened his bag, reached inside, and said clearly enough for multiple people standing there to hear, "Touch me and see what happens." Those words are documented in the police report. Several witnesses also recalled him saying, "Touch me and find out," during the same exchange. Both statements were heard. Both were remembered. Austin Metcalf pushed Anthony. Anthony pulled a black folding knife from the bag and stabbed Metcalf once in the chest. Metcalf ran down the bleachers and was seen up against a fence, holding his abdomen. Hunter heard someone nearby say his brother had been stabbed and went to him immediately. Tiffany Whitaker, the Memorial High School athletic trainer, heard screaming and commotion from the stands. A student ran directly to her and said, "He stabbed him and threw the knife into the stands," pointing at Anthony. Whitaker immediately got in front of Anthony, put her hands up, and told Heritage High School head football coach Vincent Hooper not to let him leave. Then she turned and ran toward Austin. Joshua Redman, an Army veteran and defensive coordinator at Liberty High School who had been working as a throwing coach at the meet that morning, was standing roughly 20 feet away under the Liberty tent. He was mid-conversation with another coach when he heard the sudden noise of students running down the bleachers. He moved toward the memorial tent immediately. He found Metcalf up against a fence. He pulled off his jacket and applied it directly to the wound. He called out for other coaches to dial 911. As blood pooled in Metcalf's abdomen, his color began to change. His eyes rolled back. Redman checked for a pulse and found none. He began CPR. One coach took over chest compressions while another performed mouth-to-mouth. Redman had seen combat. He recognized what the breathing pattern meant. He chose not to say aloud what he already understood. On the 911 recording captured that morning, Redman's voice can be heard in the background repeating, "Stay with me, Austin. Stay with me, Austin." Coach Hooper had Karmelo Anthony in front of him. Anthony had not run. He had not attempted to leave. Whitaker had brought Anthony to Hooper and told him not to let the teenager go. Without being questioned by anyone, Anthony told Hooper directly, "He put his hands on me. I stabbed him." Hooper looked at him and said, "If he dies, you change your life for the rest of your life." Anthony replied, "He won't die." Under cross-examination at trial, Whitaker confirmed that throughout all of this, Anthony did not attempt to flee the scene, remained near the track, and appeared visibly upset and emotional. Paramedics arrived. Austin Metcalf was transported to hospital. He did not survive. From the moment Metcalf first entered that stadium to the moment Karmelo Anthony was placed under arrest, approximately 15 minutes had passed. What you just heard is only the beginning. A 17-year-old went to a track meet on a Wednesday morning in April 2025 and never came home. Another teenager who had never met him before that day is now 19 years old and serving 35 years in a Texas prison. The investigation, the courtroom, the verdict, and everything this case left behind, that is still ahead. This channel covers every layer, the evidence, the witnesses, the people behind the headlines, and the details that never make it into a news segment. Subscribe now so you never miss a case. Now, what happened after Anthony was taken into custody? When Officer Eduardo Cortez radioed that he had the alleged suspect in custody, Karmelo Anthony responded without being questioned at all. "I'm not alleged. I did it." As officers walked him toward the patrol vehicle, he added, "He put his hands on me. I told him not to." Both statements were made spontaneously, without prompting, and were corroborated by multiple officers including Officer A. Ricci, who arrived on scene moments later. Prosecutor Bill Werski later told the jury that once inside the squad car, Anthony was cool, calm, and collected. Under cross-examination, Officer Cortez confirmed Anthony was also emotional at points during the ride. The body camera captured all of it. Anthony was booked into Collin County Jail on April 2, 2025, charged with first-degree murder. His initial bond was set at $1 million. In Texas, 17-year-olds are treated as adults in serious violent crime cases, and the decision to prosecute Anthony in adult court was made without ambiguity. On April 14, 12 days after the stabbing, a bond hearing reduced the amount to $250,000. Anthony was released under strict house arrest conditions, ankle monitor at all times, adult supervision around the clock, no leaving home without the judge's prior approval, no social media of any kind, no contact with the Metcalf family, and a mandatory Friday check-in with the court. On June 24, 2025, a Collin County grand jury formally indicted him on one count of first-degree murder. Within hours of the stabbing on April 2, high-profile social media accounts had amplified the incident to nearly 50 million views, framing everything through a racial lens before a single verified fact had been officially released. What followed was one of the most aggressive misinformation campaigns law enforcement had publicly addressed in connection with a local criminal case. A fake social media account appeared online impersonating Frisco Police Chief David Kuykendall. It claimed the stabbing was a mutual combat altercation, that Austin Metcalf had sucker-punched Anthony first, and that Metcalf had smashed Anthony's phone onto the bleachers. None of it was true. Chief Kuykendall issued a formal public statement. "Beware of those taking to social media to deliberately spread misinformation, hate, fear, and division. Yesterday evening, a fictitious account was created using my name perpetuating misinformation. This is a criminal offense and a third-degree felony which will be investigated." The Frisco Police Department and the FBI jointly launched an investigation into the fake account. A separate fabricated image then circulated on Facebook posing as a report from the Collin County Medical Examiner's office. It falsely claimed Austin Metcalf's primary cause of death was an MDMA drug overdose, with his stab wound listed only as secondary. The Frisco Police Department responded immediately and publicly. The real report had not been released, and anything circulating online was completely false. On April 15, 2025, Kala Hayes posted a fundraising campaign on GiveSendGo titled the Help Karmelo Official Fund with an initial goal of nearly $1.4 million. The campaign described the funds as intended for relocation and basic living expenses following credible threats against the family. By the time it was taken down following Anthony's conviction, it had raised nearly $634,000. The backlash was immediate. Rumors spread across social media that the family had purchased an $800,000 home and a new Escalade with donated funds. At a press conference on April 17 at non-headquarters in Dallas, the organization's president Dominique Alexander addressed those claims directly. "Let's be clear, the family has not received one dime." He explained the funds had not yet been disbursed and confirmed each false claim by name before denying it. What Alexander described next painted a picture of two families under siege from different directions. The Anthony family had been subjected to what he called an unimaginable amount of hate, racism, and threats to their safety. People had loitered outside their home and photographed it. Unwanted deliveries had been sent as deliberate harassment. Austin Metcalf's obituary had been physically mailed to their address. Drew Anthony had been forced to take a leave of absence from his job out of fear for his family's safety. Kala Hayes broke down at the podium describing what her family had endured day by day. The Metcalf family was living under equal threat. False emergency calls sent SWAT officers with guns drawn to Jeff Metcalf's home in Frisco in April 2025. Both families were swatted. Both families received ongoing death threats before the trial began and continued receiving them after the verdict. In an interview with CBS Texas 2 days after the conviction, Jeff Metcalf said plainly, "Yesterday had a death threat. This morning had multiple emails, texts threatening me, calling me all sorts of names." Frisco ISD reached a confidential agreement allowing Anthony to receive his high school diploma despite being excluded from all graduation activities. He completed every requirement with a 3.7 GPA. He was not permitted to attend any ceremony. At the centennial graduation ceremony, Hunter Metcalf walked across the stage and accepted Austin's posthumous diploma on his behalf. By June 1, 2026, when jury selection began at the Collin County Courthouse in McKinney, Texas, the case had been building for 14 months. Lines formed outside before the doors opened. Demonstrators gathered on both sides of the street. Heavy security surrounded the building. And, before a single witness took the stand, the defense filed a formal Batson challenge after the final jury of 11 women and 1 man contained no black jurors. Judge John Roach Jr. denied it. The trial had not yet officially begun, and it had already generated a legal controversy that court observers said would follow the case long after any verdict was reached. 14 months is a long time to build a case. But what Collin County First Assistant District Attorney Bill Werski, operating under District Attorney Greg Willis, assembled between April 2, 2025 and the opening of trial on June 4, 2026 was a prosecution package built on physical evidence, forensic analysis, body camera footage, and the testimony of more than 20 witnesses, students, coaches, first responders, and medical experts, all pointing in the same direction. The first witness Werski called when testimony began was not a student and not a coach. It was forensic video analyst Mark Porter. The choice was deliberate. Before anything else, the prosecution wanted the jury to see exactly what the cameras had captured. Frisco ISD provided investigators with footage from 5 separate camera angles positioned around Kuykendall Stadium. Porter walked jurors through each one methodically. According to his testimony, Karmelo Anthony first appeared on camera at approximately 9:52 in the morning. Austin Metcalf arrived at his school's 10 around 9:54. At approximately 10 o'clock, movement could be detected beneath the tent where the confrontation took place. Porter testified that the footage appeared to show one person pushing another, but he acknowledged openly under cross-examination by defense attorney Toby Shook that the video could not capture facial expressions, mouth movements, or head movements, because it was composed of a series of still images captured from a distance across the field. Shook pressed him directly. "You really can't tell what people are doing under the tent, can you?" Porter agreed. What the footage did show was the sequence. Anthony entering the tent from behind. Movement. And then Anthony moving away from the tent as students scattered in every direction. The footage was grainy when software was used to zoom in, and the image quality deteriorated significantly under magnification. Porter acknowledged that too. But the prosecution's point was never the granular detail of individual frames. It was the timeline. From the moment Metcalf entered that stadium to the moment Karmelo Anthony was placed in handcuffs, approximately 15 minutes elapsed. The cameras captured all of it. Prosecutors also demonstrated to jurors how quickly the folding knife could be deployed, snapping it open in seconds in the courtroom. The knife had been recovered from the bleachers after a witness directed responding officers directly to it. It was processed and entered into evidence. The 911 call placed from the scene that morning was played for the jury. The caller reported a stabbing at Kuykendall Stadium, confirmed that an Army veteran was applying pressure to the wound, and told dispatchers plainly, He is not awake and he's not breathing. Joshua Redmond's blood-stained jacket was entered into physical evidence and displayed to jurors near the close of the state's case. The Collin County medical examiner testified that the single stab wound pierced Austin Metcalf's heart and was not survivable. Autopsy photographs were entered into evidence and shown to the jury. Every piece of physical and forensic evidence in the prosecution's case pointed back to one documented moment, a verbal threat issued before any physical contact was made, recorded in the police report, confirmed by multiple independent witnesses who had no connection to each other, and treated by Worski as the legal foundation of the entire case. Texas self-defense law does not grant unlimited license to use deadly force. The law requires that deadly force be immediately necessary. And, critically, under a separate provision of the Texas Penal Code, a person who provokes the confrontation that leads to their use of force loses the protection of self-defense unless they clearly abandon the encounter and the other person kept coming. Anthony had not abandoned anything. He had stayed in that 10 through 15 requests to leave. Worski brought it to one sentence in his closing argument. This is one of those rare cases, he told the jury, where every important fact can be boiled down to one sentence. You do not get to meet a shove with a stab, especially if you provoke the shove. That line was the anchor of the prosecution's entire theory. It would hang in that courtroom for the rest of the trial. Mike Howard had a counterargument, and under Texas law, it carried real weight. Mike Howard built his defense around two pillars. The first was Texas law itself. The second was a single physical act. On the law, Howard was accurate in one important respect. Texas does not require a person to wait until they are struck before they can act in self-defense. The legal standard is reasonable belief. If you reasonably believe that force is about to be used against you, you may act first. Howard framed every decision Karmelo Anthony made inside that 10 through that standard. He described Anthony to the jury as an honor student working two jobs, a teenager who had been team elected as football captain, whose senior football season had been cut short months earlier by a significant shoulder injury that required surgery, and who he said remained seated in that tent until he was directly confronted and felt he had no choice. In that split second, Howard told jurors during opening statements, Mello has a decision to make, how and when to act. Self-defense is useless if you wait too late to defend yourself. He reacts in a split second of fear, chaos. The second pillar was the push. Austin Metcalf made physical contact first. Howard argued that contact was the triggering event, that whatever preceded it was context, and that the moment Metcalf's hands touched Anthony, Texas law permitted a response. Austin Metcalf had no legal right to use force to eject Karmelo Anthony from that tent, Howard told the jury. He had no legal right to put his hands on Karmelo. To support the argument that Anthony's presence in the memorial tent was not inherently provocative, the defense called Centennial football and track coach Adam Linwood. Linwood described the culture of track meets as organized chaos, coaches pulled in multiple directions, athletes with hours of downtime, students from different schools regularly mingling during breaks. He confirmed he knew of no formal policy prohibiting students from entering other teams' tent areas. He said his own athletes had gone into other tents. He said he would not kick another school's student out of his tent. Under cross-examination, Worski asked him directly whether there was any reason for an athlete to have a knife at a track meet. Linwood said no. Worski pressed further. As far as he knew, had Frisco ISD's policy of not having a knife at a track meet ever been violated before? Linwood said no. The defense also called recent Centennial graduate Jeremiah Smith, who similarly described athletes moving freely among tents during downtime but acknowledged under cross-examination that he would leave if another team asked him to go. A 17-year-old Centennial student who had played the same position as Anthony
Carmelo Anthony has been found guilty of murdering a fellow high schooler while they were at a track meet in 2025. So Carmelo is now 19 years old, and he was accused of murdering Austin Metcalf. The two were at a track meet when a scuffle ensued, and Carmelo took out a knife and stabbed Metcalf. Now, this story happened in Frisco, Texas, but it got national attention, and the trial moved very, very
rather
fast.
than Anthony
Just on June
forcing
1st,
his way
they
in
were
uninvited.
picking the jury,
Karmelo
and
Anthony
today,
did
June
not
9th,
testify.
they
That was
delivered
his
that guilty verdict
constitutional right,
against
and the
Karmelo.
judge
So here
instructed
is
the jury
the
clearly that
backstory.
they could not
Apparently,
hold
they
his
were at a
silence
track
against him.
meet, a
But
Frisco
12
Independent
people
School
tasked
District
with
track meet
determining
in
what was going through
2025,
Anthony's
and it
mind,
started
and that
raining.
moment never heard it from him
Austin
directly.
went to Memorial High
Where the
School.
defense
They had a
ran
tent,
into its
and
most serious
apparently
difficulty
someone in
was
the
not
tent
the law.
invited Carmelo
It
to
was the
come
weight
underneath
of
it
what had
to
already been
escape the rain.
presented
Carmelo's
before
lawyer,
Howard
Mike
called a
Howard,
single
alleges
witness.
that once he
The
went underneath the
prosecution
tent,
had called
Austin
21
Metcalf
witnesses before
or his
resting
twin
its
brother
case on
Hunter
June 7,
began questioning Carmelo.
2026.
There was
Among the most
apparently
critical
some
was
sort
an
of scuffle.
underage student
Mike
witness
Howard
who was
alleges
asked
that
directly whether
the
Karmelo
Metcalfs
Anthony
used
acted
deadly
in
force against
self-defense.
Carmelo,
His
and that
answer was
Carmelo
plain
then
and
acted in
immediate.
self-defense when
That's
he
lethal
stabbed
force against
Austin.
non-lethal
It ended up being
force.
a fatal stab
Under
wound, and
cross-examination
Austin
by
died.
Toby
Now
Shook,
that's the defense's
the
side,
witness
and the defense
acknowledged
attorney
his
also
earlier
alleged
written
that the
statement to police
witnesses
had
were
described
biased,
Metcalf
that they were
placing
all
a hand
Memorial
on
High School
Anthony's shoulder
students,
to
that
intimidate him.
Austin was,
He
quote,
called it
their
more of a
leader,
warning.
according to
When
him,
Shook pressed him
and that,
further,
of
he
course,
said,
they were biased
"Actions
against
speak
Mello,
louder
who did
than
not
words."
attend their school.
Eddie
Now,
Parra,
this is what the
18 years
prosecutor
old,
said.
a
They did
Memorial
acknowledge
student
that there
who
was
had
some
known
sort of
Anthony
scuffle
before
between the
that morning,
teens, but
took
they
the
said
stand
this is
and
one
broke
of
down
those
describing
rare
what he
cases
saw.
where every important
Blood and
fact
a
can be
wound
boiled
in
down
Metcalf's
to one
chest.
sentence.
Metcalf
You do not get to
screaming
meet
for
a
help.
shove with a
Worski
stab,
asked Parra
especially
directly
if
whether
you
the
provoke
case
the
was about
shove.
race
So
or
they allege
self-defense.
Carmelo started
Parra
this
said
scuffle,
no.
which
Then
is in line
Worski
with what
asked him
witnesses said
who
they
was
saw.
wrong that day.
They argued it was
Parra looked
not
at the
immediately
jury and
necessary
said
for
one
Carmelo
word:
to pull a knife out,
Karmelo.
and therefore they
The
argued for
defense
him to get
rested on
convicted
Monday,
of murder,
June 8,
which he was
2026.
today. Also important to keep
Closing
in mind
arguments
that the
were
jury
next,
was
and then 12
deliberating
people would
between
decide.
if he should
Jury
get
selection
murder
began
or
on June
manslaughter.
1st,
Now, with murder,
2026 at
he
the Collin
gets
County
5 to
Courthouse
99
in
years in
McKinney,
prison.
Texas.
With manslaughter,
From a
he would have
pool of
gotten 2 to
prospective
20.
jurors, the panel
We know
was
now that
narrowed
they
over 2
chose to
days
convict
to
him
12
of
jurors
murder.
and
The
6
difference is,
alternates.
under Texas
The
code,
final
if a
composition was
defendant
11
willingly
women
and knowingly
one man.
causes a death,
Not one of the
they should be
12
charged
jurors
with
was black.
murder. And to be charged with
Prosecutors
manslaughter,
maintained the
you must
selection
prove that the
process was
defendant,
race-neutral
beyond a
and
reasonable
argued that
doubt,
the 3
recklessly
remaining
caused
black
the death,
candidates
but
were
did
struck
not
because
intend
they were
to
educators
cause
with
the death.
connections
And just
to
a little
Frisco
background on what it
ISD.
was like in the courtroom
Brooklyn Law
today.
School
Our CBS
professor
News Texas
Alexis
was there,
Hope Forgeour
and
noted
they
publicly
said that for the
challenges to
first
jury
time,
selection
Hunter
processes
Metcalf,
can
Austin's
resurface
twin brother,
later
was
in a
in
case.
the room,
They already
as well
had.
as some
The
friends.
Batson challenge
His
had been
parents were
denied
instructed
before a single
not to
witness
make
took the
any
stand.
emotional
Judge
reaction
John
when
Roach
the
Jr.
verdict
ran
was
the
read,
courtroom with
and also
firm
that when the
and
verdict was
consistent
read,
control
Carmelo's
from the
defense
first
attorney
day.
had his
No
arm around him,
cameras.
and that
No
Carmelo
live
looked
streaming.
tense. This is
Cell
a story
phones
that has sparked a
prohibited
debate
inside the
about
building.
school safety
A
and
gag
race
order
and
restricted
self-defense,
public comments
and you
from
could read
attorneys,
more about this at the linked
witnesses,
CBS
and
News article.
investigators.
Carmelo
Throughout
Anthony
the
sentenced to
entire
35
proceeding,
years. The
Judge
fatal
Roach
stabbing of
warned the gallery at the
17-year-old
start of each
Austin
session that
Metcalf at a
anyone who
track
spoke
meet
out or
last
caused any
April.
disruption would be
Good-looking
removed
kid
immediately
that we
without
lost, and his
exception.
father, Jeff
Outside the
Metcalf, joins
courthouse,
us
the
now.
atmosphere
And
was
sir, thanks for
something
coming
else
on. We do
entirely.
appreciate it. I know what this
Demonstrators
must be like
gathered
for
on
you.
both sides
I
of
want
the
to just
case
start by
every
asking
single
you
day of the
after
trial
the
in
sentencing and
June,
after
Texas heat.
everything
On
you've
the
seen,
first
are
day
you
of testimony,
satisfied
a small group of approximately
with
a half
how this has
dozen
resulted?
white nationalists appeared among the crowd. Also present that day was Jake Lang,
35 not
a
enough?
right-wing personality who had spent 4 years in prison for
It's never
role
about
in the
the number.
January 6th, 2021 insurrection
The whole
at the
thing,
United States
satisfaction
Capitol.
would
Lang
be
had been
for me
arrested on
to
an
watch
outstanding
Austin
warrant
walk through
just
my
days
door and
before
hug
the
me.
trial began. As a
So,
condition of his release, he had been ordered to remain at
I don't
least
wish
200
harm
feet from the courthouse.
on anyone.
He appeared in the area
I actually
anyway
feel sorry
and was kept outside the
for
legal
Karmelo
perimeter.
Anthony
His
because I
presence
know
drew immediate
I
and
can't
vocal
imagine. I've
anger
never
from
been to prison,
demonstrators
so
gathered in support of
but I
Anthony.
wouldn't wish that upon
Crowds
anyone.
on both sides shouted at
But
each other as
unfortunately, we
opening
live in a
statements
society
got
where your
underway
actions have
inside the building.
consequences.
Testimony
And,
ran across 6 days, and the trial as a
You
whole
know,
lasted 7 days.
as a Christian
Worski
person,
opened by telling telling the jury
people
exactly
question
what
me
the
about my
prosecution
forgiveness
intended
so
to
quickly,
prove.
and I had to explain
Anthony
that
had
to everyone.
provoked the confrontation.
The forgiveness was
He had brought a
for
hidden
me,
knife to a school
so I
track
wouldn't
meet.
carry the
He
rage
had
and the hate.
issued a documented verbal
It doesn't
threat before
excuse his
any physical
actions.
contact was
It's not
made.
that,
And when
oh, it's
Metcalf
okay.
responded to that threat by pushing him,
It's
Anthony
not okay.
launched what Worski
But
described
it's
as an
unfortunate you
unjustified
chose
sneak attack
the
on an
decision
unarmed
to take
victim.
my son's life.
Howard opened for the defense by
But you do
acknowledging
have
to
to answer
jurors
for
that
that.
an enormous amount of
What do you think
completely false information
this
had
young man whose
surrounded this
parents
case
are so
from the
forcefully
beginning.
defending him,
He asked them to
saying that
set
he was
all of it
simply
aside.
defending himself,
He
which
asked
is
them to focus on
outrageous
what
when you look at
Texas
the
law
actual
actually
testimony
required.
in the case.
And he
What do you
asked them
think he was
consider
trying to
what
do
it felt
that
like
day?
to be 17 years old,
Well,
physically
this is the
confronted,
big question
and
I
forced to
have.
make a life-altering decision
If you're
in a
claiming
matter of seconds.
self-defense,
Mark Porter walked jurors through the Five Ingalls
if
Stadium
I was
footage
being
and
accused of
confirmed
something
the
and I was
sequence of
claiming
events.
self-defense,
Joshua Redmond
I
took
would
the
want to get on the
stand,
stand and
and
tell
the
my
9 911 call
I
recorded
would want to
that morning was
explain
played in the
exactly
courtroom.
what was in
Screams
my
audible
mind,
in the
what
background.
I was
Redmond's
thinking,
voice repeating
and why
"Stay
I
with me,
reacted in the
Austin,"
way I
as
did.
people in the gallery covered their mouths
He chose
and
not to.
cheers moved through the room. Robert Starr
That says a
described the
lot.
team tent culture as
Maybe it was on the advice
visibly
of attorneys.
emotional
I
on the
don't know,
stand.
but we'll
Vincent
never know
Hooper
the answer
testified to
because he was
Anthony's
never
admission
asked
at
the
the scene.
question
Eddie
of
Parra broke down
why.
describing what he witnessed and
Now,
told the jury
I'm not going to
directly
throw his
who he
parents under the
believed
bus.
was wrong
Their
that day.
character can speak
Dr.
for
Elizabeth
themselves.
Ventura
They can
presented her
conduct
medical
themselves
findings
and
and
however they
autopsy
choose
photographs to the
I
jury.
understand it's their
Several
son,
jurors covered their
but you need to
mouths.
teach your son
Austin
about
Metcalf's
accountability.
parents left the courtroom before
And
her
they're
testimony began.
deflecting.
Redmond's
Take
blood-stained
accountability.
jacket was
First of all,
displayed to the
you've never
jury
said,
near the close
boy,
of the
never,
state's
ever,
case.
ever showed
No
remorse.
elaboration from the prosecution
Never
was needed.
apologized.
The
The
visual
Anthony
did the work
family decided to
entirely
kick
on
me out
its
of a
own.
press conference
After the
instead
defense
of I was
rested
there to
on
show
Monday,
the world
June 8th's
we could
closing
come
arguments
together.
were
This is
delivered
not
the
a
following
race
morning.
issue.
Worski stood
But
before the
what they
jury
do,
and was direct
they
from his
just
first
chose
sentence.
that path.
This is
I
not
didn't choose
self-defense,
it.
folks. It's murder.
You guys are
Plain
getting
and
That's the
simple.
problem.
Yeah.
He walked them through the sequence
you're getting
one final
threatened
time. The hidden
by
knife,
Oh, that's
supporters of the
documented
killer. I
threat,
mean,
the
what
provoked
the hell
push,
is
the
that,
sneak
and what's your
attack
response
on
to
an
it?
unarmed teenager.
Look.
Ultimately, he told them, this case is about accountability.
You're all
Howard
responsible
made
for
his
two
final
things
appeal
in,
to the jury.
in your whole
Texas
life. You
law
only
does not
control
require
two
that you
things.
wait until you get
That's
him.
it.
In that
It's your
split second of
attitude
chaos,
and your actions.
you must put yourself in his shoes.
Outside of this little
The
circle,
jury was sequestered
nothing.
and
You
began
control
deliberating
nothing.
at midday
It's all
on June
noise.
9th,
So
2026.
if someone
They
chooses to be
deliberated
that
for
way,
approximately
that's a
2 hours
reflection
and
of their
20 minutes.
character. Has nothing
Outside
to
the
do with
courthouse,
me.
crowds on both sides waited
When
in
I go
heat.
to heaven,
On verdict day, at least
I
2 people
feel
were
that
arrested
my
in the
faith
surrounding area.
and the
One
way
of
I
those
have
arrested was
conducted
Sheldon
myself,
Daniels, a Texas Republican
to the
nominee
best
for
of my
Congress
ability,
in the
I'm not
state's
perfect.
30th
No,
congressional district,
I'm human. I
taken
have
into
anger,
custody in
rage,
connection with an
emotions.
alleged assault on
And
another man
at
outside
the
the
end of the
courthouse.
day,
Clashes
I feel
broke
like
out
I will
between
get into
opposing
heaven and sit
groups
beside
as the
Austin,
news
and then
spread
I
through
will
the
have
crowd.
understanding.
Inside the courtroom, the jury
But
filed back
for
in
people
and
to
took their seats.
lower themselves
And what happened next
and
belongs
show
in the
the
next
moral
chapter of the
decay
story.
of society,
12 people walked into a
to
deliberation
take a
room on the
dead
morning of June 9th,
child
2026.
and make
Approximately
memes
2
and
hours and 20
derogatory
minutes later, they
terms
walked back out with the
just
decision.
because you're trying to
Before we
defend
get to
someone
what
who
they
murdered
decided,
him.
drop a comment right
I
now.
don't
What did you
understand
think the
the
verdict was going to be?
concept,
Were you
or
surprised by
what
how
are you
quickly they came
teaching
back
our
after a
future
7-day
children?
trial? Let us know
Because
below.
I'm only going to be here
And
probably
if
maybe
someone in your
20,
life
30 more
needs to hear
years.
this story, share
But
this
I'm
video.
more concerned about
Every share
the
keeps
future
this
of our
channel
children.
alive
Those
and
are our
keeps these
leaders.
cases in
Those are
front
the
of the
people
people
that they're
who need
going
to see
to
them.
carry on
Now,
after
the
I'm
verdict.
gone. What
Judge
does that
John
future
Roach
look
Jr.
like?
called the
What are we
courtroom to order.
teaching them?
He reminded everyone in the gallery of what he had said at the start of
I can't
every session
fathom.
throughout this trial.
I can tell
No
you're a good
outbursts.
dad. I can
No
tell you raised
reactions.
good boys.
Anyone who disrupted the
I'm so
proceeding
sorry
would be
for what happened,
removed
and I
could
that
face
doesn't
contempt.
even begin
The
to
room
cover
went
it.
quiet.
But I appreciate you
Mike
coming on
Howard
and telling
stood
us
at
your
the
side of the
defense
story,
table with
because
his hand resting on Karmelo
it's just such
Anthony's
it's such a
shoulder.
terrible story. And I
Anthony
see that
stood
picture of your
beside
boy,
him
and he just looks like
and
such a good
waited.
kid.
The jury filed in
Lost way
and
too
took
soon.
their seats.
I'm proud of both
Judge
my
Roach
boys.
read the verdict.
And you
I
should
still
be.
have
Guilty.
two sons.
First
Just
degree murder.
one's upstairs
Unanimous.
and one's here.
All 12
It's okay.
jurors. From
They,
somewhere in the
you know,
gallery, a
I
woman's
can't
voice
speak
broke
to the
through
bond
the silence.
of a twin because
This
I'm not a
isn't
twin.
real.
But I witnessed
Anthony
it,
reportedly
and I
broke
saw
down
it.
in tears at
And
the defense table.
my boys were,
Howard
you
kept
know,
his hand
the
on his
lies
shoulder.
that were
Drew
spread where
Anthony
I,
and
under a
Paula
gag
Hayes
order
were
where
in
I
the
can't
room.
defend
Outside,
my dead
dozens
son.
of people who had been standing in
The
90-degree Texas
mental
heat
health
waiting
issues
for the
that
decision
caused
received the
me,
news as it
the
spread
strain,
through the
the
crowd.
stress,
Jeff Metcalf,
physically,
Megan
spiritually,
Metcalf,
mentally,
and Hunter Metcalf,
it's been
Austin's twin brother,
exhausting.
were all present in the
And
courtroom when the
I'm
verdict
just
was read.
glad
The
that
jury
at least
had
the trial
deliberated for
part now is
approximately 3
over.
hours after a 7-day
It's
trial
done.
that produced
Because I
more
woke
than
up
20
every day with
witnesses,
this dread
body
and
camera
anxiety
footage,
for 12,
multi-angle
14
surveillance
months.
analysis, and
And
the testimony of coaches,
today I woke
students, first responders, and
I
a
still
medical
miss my
examiner.
son.
They have been
He's
given the
still not
option
coming
during the
home.
guilt phase to consider
But
a
at least
lesser
I
charge
don't
of
have to
manslaughter.
sit there over
a second-degree felony
and
that would have
relive
carried
it
a sentence
in
of
the
2 to
courtroom.
20 years.
It was
They
just
rejected it.
to
The
have
distinction between the two
the body
charges
cam
came
footage
down to
and the
one
video
word:
and the audio.
knowingly.
And
Murder
to hear
required the
my
jury to
other son
believe Anthony
screaming,
knowingly caused
God,
Metcalf's death.
please, he's my
They
best
did.
friend. He's my twin.
Manslaughter would not have
God,
required
help him.
that
Someone
finding.
help
The
him.
jury chose the higher charge, unanimously.
No
It is
parent
also worth noting that before
should ever
deliberations
have to
began,
feel
the
this.
defense had objected to jury instructions
And
stating
I don't
that the
care what color
self-defense
you are.
argument was
I
not
don't see
viable
color.
if Anthony
God
had
doesn't see
provoked
color.
confrontation.
Justice doesn't see
Judge
color.
Roach
Hate
overruled
doesn't
that
see color.
objection,
Love
agreeing with the
doesn't see color.
prosecution. The instruction stood. The
Just-
legal
I
implications
just tell the
of
world
a
that
first-degree
the world
murder
needs
conviction
more
follow a
kind people
person
in
for
it.
the rest of their life.
And if you can't
Voting
find
rights,
one,
employment
be one.
opportunities,
Jeff,
housing
I
application,
want to thank you so much for
professional
coming on
licensing,
tonight.
and legal standing in every
God
sense
bless you
are all
and your family.
permanently affected.
Thank you, sir.
Anthony was
Thank
taken
you.
into custody the moment
You know, everybody's
the verdict
reporting the
was
same
read.
stories, the
He had been
same
free on
spin.
bail
You turn the
throughout
channel, it's
entire
always
trial.
the same.
That
But not
ended
us.
immediately.
We're different.
That
We
night
report
he was
the
held
real
in
news. No
isolation
spin,
in
just
Collin
the
County
facts.
Jail Infirmary.
Turn to
The
us,
following
and you
morning
won't turn
on
back.
Wednesday,
Tune in to
June
Rob
10th,
Schmidt tonight on
2026, the Texas
Newsmax.
Department of Criminal Justice transferred him to the Wallace Pack Unit, a state prison near Navasota just outside Houston, where he would begin serving his sentence. Because Anthony was 17 years old at the time of the offense, the death penalty was constitutionally off the table. Life without the possibility of parole was also off the table under the Supreme Court's rulings in Graham v. Florida and Miller v. Alabama, both of which established that such sentences cannot be imposed on juvenile offenders. A path to parole had to exist within any sentence the jury imposed. The sentencing range, now in front of those 12 people, was 5 to 99 years, or life. The jury had one more decision to make before they left that courtroom. Both families were about to speak, and then the number would be read. The sentencing phase began immediately after the guilty verdict was announced. Both prosecution and defense waived their right to opening statements. The prosecution chose not to call a single witness, betting that the week of testimony already before the jury said everything that needed to be said. The defense called one person. Kala Hayes walked to the stand with mascara streaking her tear-soaked cheeks. She was the only witness the defense put before the jury in the sentencing phase, and she said everything a mother in that position can say. "Please have mercy on my son," she told them. "He's my oldest, he's my firstborn.
This kid,
He will always be my
before I
baby.
knew his name now,
I love
this kid
him
was
very
sitting
much."
under our
The defense asked her
tent
directly whether
at
her
the
son
track.
regretted what he
He
had
asked him to
done.
move.
She answered,
He started getting aggressive
yes,
and talking
he's very sorry
reckless.
for what he did.
And my
The
brother
jury
stepped in and said,
deliberated
"You
for
need to move."
approximately
He's like,
two
"Make me
and a
move."
half
Also
hours
grabbed his
before
backpack.
returning with a sentence.
The kid,
Carmelo Anthony
I
was
tried to whip around
sentenced
as
to
fast as I
35
could, but I
years in
didn't see
prison. The sudden
the
passion
stab.
claim was
But then I
rejected.
looked at my
Anthony's parents
and I
were
looked at my
not in the
brother,
courtroom
and
for the
I'm not gonna talk
sentencing
about the rest,
or
but
for what came
just-
next.
that's just what I
After the
saw.
sentence was
Yeah.
handed down, the Metcalf
I tried to-
family
I tried to
addressed
help him,
Carmelo
but-
Anthony directly. Megan Metcalf spoke first. "We will
It was
never know
really
what our
senseless,
future
really.
could have been.
I don't know why
For
a person would do that to
journalists,
someone
activists, this is
just
a
over
story.
that
For
little
our
argument.
family,
It's just crazy in
this
this
is our
world nowadays
reality.
how people just
She described what her
do
daily
that, like,
life looks like
I
now.
did. I mean, as a
Now
family,
my
I mean, there's
conversations
people that
with
care
him
about them
are
all the time.
one-sided.
And
Sitting at
he
his
did
grave,
everything for our family
I
too.
have
He was
to
a strong
accept
man.
that
He was
instead of
strong
walking
kid.
beside me, he's walking above me. She spoke about going into his empty room and his empty bed,
All right.
and remembering
Come
every
on,
morning
just
that
follow
Austin was
me behind
gone.
us.
She told the courtroom Austin was a morning kid, a
Just stay
hugger,
close, okay?
someone who always had a way of bringing people together. He was a peacemaker, she said. Jeff Metcalf looked directly at Anthony. "People think grief is sadness. It is not. It is rage," he told him. "You failed your parents, you failed yourself, and you failed society." Then he said, "You may have been sentenced to 35
Carmelo, do
years
you have anything
behind
that you'd like
bars.
to say,
You
Carmelo?
should feel lucky.
Do you have anything that
I've
you'd like
been
to say to the
sentenced to a
victim?
lifetime
To the
without my
family of the
son."
victim?
He told
Why were
Anthony
you
not to
armed,
look down.
sweetheart?
He called him
Carmelo, why
despicable.
were you armed
Hunter
at school?
Metcalf spoke last. He was Austin's twin. He had
Explain
been
your
there when it happened.
self-defense. How is this
He had sat in
self-defense?
that courtroom for the verdict.
Excuse me.
And now he's speaking
like
to
you said.
the person who had changed everything and asked him to look him in the eye. "I just want some respect," he said. Anthony looked up at him. "I want you to realize how much pain you caused me and my family. You let the devil take over you in that moment." He spoke about his struggle over the past year to find forgiveness, leaning on his faith as he tried to understand why his brother had to die. "You took a son, a brother, a friend, my best friend from this world. You took someone away from me who is supposed to be an uncle to my kids." He looked at Anthony and said, "Now I want everything taken from you. You took everything from me." Kala Hayes had confirmed from the stand that her son would still be part of her life. The Metcalf family will never have that with Austin. Carmelo Anthony will be eligible for parole consideration after serving approximately half of his 35-year sentence, placing him in his mid-30s at the earliest point of eligibility. The Texas Board of Pardons and Paroles will weigh his institutional behavior, any completed rehabilitation programs, the nature of the original offense, and the input of the Metcalf family, who have a formal guaranteed voice at every single parole hearing. Frisco ISD released a public statement following the verdict expressing relief at the outcome. The sentence was handed down, but this case is not over. One day after the conviction, on Wednesday, June 10, 2026, Karmelo Anthony filed a notice of appeal in Collin County. He filed it alongside an indigency packet, a formal declaration to the court that he is penniless and cannot afford appellate counsel. He requested a court-appointed lawyer at the state's expense. Under Texas law, defendants have a strict 30-day window from the final sentencing hearing to file that notice. Miss it and the right to appeal is lost entirely. Anthony's legal team did not miss it. The notice filed on June 10th contains no specific grounds. Under the process, those grounds are specified once an appellate attorney is appointed and the full trial record has been reviewed. What legal experts are already identifying as the most likely argument is the Batson challenge. Mike Howard confirmed publicly that the defense intends to challenge several issues, including the jury selection process. Attorney John Cole, speaking to CBS Texas, said the argument is not simply that the jury was all white. It is that the prosecution used peremptory strikes specifically to remove black jurors from the panel. The problem is when the jurors were struck, Cole said. The Anthony argument is that the prosecution used it to get rid of the black jurors. Just weeks before Anthony's verdict, the United States Supreme Court overturned a Mississippi death row inmate's conviction after determining the trial judge had allowed prosecutors to strike jurors based on race, a direct Batson precedent ruling that did not go unnoticed by legal observers watching this case. Appellate courts in Texas do not rehear testimony. They review the official record and determine whether the trial court correctly applied the law. Overturning a unanimous verdict supported by 21 witnesses and documented physical evidence is difficult. It is not impossible. Anthony will remain in state custody at the PAC unit near Navasota throughout the entire process. Under Texas law, people convicted of murder are not eligible for bond while an appeal is pending. The Metcalf family, meanwhile, has continued to receive death threats, doxing attempts, and swatting calls since the verdict. Some messages have referenced Hunter Metcalf by name. Others have threatened to show up at the family's home. The harassment that began the day of the stabbing has not stopped. This case raised questions that a verdict alone cannot answer. A 17-year-old boy lost his twin at a school track meet. A 19-year-old is beginning a 35-year sentence for a decision made in seconds. The misinformation that flooded social media within hours of the stabbing, the fake accounts, the fabricated reports, the 50 million views of content that was entirely false, showed exactly how quickly a criminal case can be distorted before a single fact is established.
And they're deflecting.
The racial fault lines
Take
that surfaced around this case
First of all,
caught two
you've never
families
said,
in something neither of them asked to be part of,
showed remorse.
and neither of them could control.
Never
The Batson
apologized.
challenge
The Anthony
and
family
the composition
decided
of
to
that
kick me out
jury
of a
will
press
remain a
conference
point of
instead
legal
of
and
I was
public
there to
debate,
show the world we
regardless
could
of what
come
the Court of
together.
Appeals
This is
ultimately
not a
decides.
race issue.
When the person convicted of a crime is
what
a
they do,
teenager with no prior record,
they just chose-
and the
they
person
chose
who
that
died was
path.
also
I
a
didn't choose
teenager
it.
with everything ahead of him,
You
what
guys
does
are getting-
accountability
That's the problem.
actually look like?
Yeah.
And
You're
are the
getting-
systems
you're
in
getting
place
threatened
equipped to answer that
by
question?
supporters of the
Those are
killer.
not
I mean,
questions
what
with
the hell
clean
is that?
answers.
And what's your
But
response
they are
to
the
it?
questions this case leaves behind.
Look.
Karmelo Sincere Anthony was born on May 11th, 2007 in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. He grew up to become a team captain, an honor student, and a teenager with 2 part-time jobs and a future being discussed by college programs. He is 19 years old. He is at the PAC unit near Navasota, Texas, beginning a 35-year prison sentence. He has filed a notice of appeal and declared himself penniless, requesting a court-appointed attorney. That is where he is today. Austin Matthew Metcalf was born on July 31st, 2007. He grew up in Frisco, Texas. He was a 4.0 student,
This morning,
a
we have an
two-time
exclusive
player of the
interview with the
game,
parents
a
of a
middle
Texas
linebacker with
teenager
college
sentenced
football
this
programs
week
taking
to
notice,
35
and the
years
kind
in
of person
prison
his
for killing
teammates
a
described
fellow
as
high
someone
school
who is
athlete.
always leading
On
and
Tuesday,
always
a jury
protecting
found
the people around
19-year-old
him.
Karmelo
He
Anthony
never turned
guilty
18.
of murdering
His twin brother
17-year-old
Hunter walked
Austin
across the
Metcalf.
graduation
His
stage
lawyers
and
plan
accepted
to
Austin's
appeal. They say
diploma because
prosecutors
Austin could not be
wrongly
there to
excluded
accept it
black
himself.
people from the jury.
Jeff Metcalf
Anthony's
and Megan
parents spoke
Metcalf
with Jonah
wake
Kaplan
up every
about
morning
their son,
carrying what
the trial,
remains.
and their
Hunter
message
Metcalf
to the Metcalf
carries the
family.
weight of being the twin who is still here.
didn't
The harassment directed at their
to hurt
family has not
anyone.
stopped since the day of the stabbing,
My
and
son was
Austin is still
defending
gone.
himself.
That is the story of the Carmelo Anthony case.
For a jury
Every layer of it, from the rain delay on a Wednesday morning in April
to
2025 to a 35-year sentence handed down on a Tuesday evening in June 2026. If this video gave you the full story, share it, not for the algorithm, because these families deserve to have this case told accurately. Drop one word in the comments right now describing how you feel about the verdict. One word. We want to hear from you. Subscribe to Fatal Secrets if you are not already here, because every week we cover the cases that matter with the detail they deserve. Thank you for watching. We will see you in the next one.